All right. Uh, hey, Shalom once again. Kwame Ashala. I just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone of GMS. That rule one that do teach one, that have taught me this truth. To you I say Shalom, and Shalom to the hopeful elect, Kwame Ashala and Abad Babal. All right, so I'm going to go into some history. I'm going to go into the history of Nebuchadnezzar II. And what inspired me to do this lesson is Jeremiah, the 4th chapter, specifically Jeremiah chapter 4, verses 7 on down. And it goes into the destroyer of the Gentiles. Matter of fact, I'll start off with that. So this is Jeremiah chapter 4. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to start at verse 5. The point will be made in verse 7. Jeremiah chapter 4 verse 5, declare ye in Judah and publish in Jerusalem and say, blow ye the trumpet in the land. Cry, gather together, and say, assemble yourselves and let us go into defense cities. Set up the standard towards Zion, retire, stay not, for I will bring evil from the north and a great destruction. All right, yeah, and why is it? Why are we going to receive evil and experience a great destruction? It's because we went into the ways of idolatry, starting with the kings and starting with the clergy, which is the priesthood, right? We went into the ways of idolatry. And once we do that, which means, we broke the contract between us and the Heavenly Father, we're going to get judged. We're going to experience the curses that are found written in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter and the 15th verse on down. And one curse specifically is us going into captivity and being scattered among the nations, especially, right? So that's what we experienced, especially during the account of us going into captivity under the Babylonians, which Nebuchadnezzar II, he was responsible for that, right? And he was a very cruel man. And also, I'm going to go into that as well. I'm going to go into the cruelty of Nebuchadnezzar II, and it fits his title of him being the lion that comes up from his thicket, and how he's the destroyer of the Gentiles. That fits him because he was very cruel. He was a very cruel man. He was very wicked, and he wasn't nice to us and these other nations, but mainly us. So I'm going to go into that history as well. All right, so it says here, verse 7, the lion is come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy city shall be laid waste without an inhabitant. Yeah, and that's Nebuchadnezzar II, man. This is talking about him. This is not talking about Yahushai. And you have to go into the history to prove that and to figure it out. So the lion is Nebuchadnezzar II, and he is the destroyer of the Gentiles. And the destroyer of the Gentiles, he did destroy us. He took down Judah, and he also took down the temple of Jerusalem. Right? He took Jerusalem and the temple, man. Yeah, man, and it's written in the scriptures that he did all that stuff to us. But yeah, he conquered Assyria, he conquered Egypt, he conquered Syria, he conquered Palestine, and he also conquered Judah, and he conquered Jerusalem. So this guy was very powerful, and he ran through kingdoms. He did, Nebuchadnezzar II. So this is talking about him. Verse 8, for this gird you with sackcloth, lament and howl, for the fierce anger of Yahweh is not turned back from us. That's right, and it is not turned back from us because of how we went off. And that's a part of the curses, Deuteronomy 28 and 15. Matter of fact, I'll read that. When you break these laws, statutes, and commandments, you're going to get judged. Deuteronomy 28, verse 15, consequences of disobedience. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of thy Lord Yahweh Bashem Yoshai thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And that's exactly what happened. And that's why we went into captivity under Nebuchadnezzar II. All right. So that's a part of that, because we were disobedient. Okay, so let's go into the history of Nebuchadnezzar II. So I'm going to read here, and then I'm going to go and jump down to early life and rise to power. So this is from worldhistory.org. And it says Nebuchadnezzar II, and I believe he ruled from 604 to 562 BCE, before Christ era. And it says, was the greatest king of ancient Babylon during the period of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. And I just have to say this, the Babylonian Empire did not just start with Nebuchadnezzar II. Right? There was also Paleo-Babylon that goes back to King Hammurabi. I believe he was the first, I think he was the first Babylonian king to rule in Paleo Babylon. So there's more to Babylon than Nebuchadnezzar, right? So you'd have to go into that study yourself. Scriptures doesn't mention that. It really talks about Neo-Babylon, because that's what we experienced. But there's more to Babylon than Nebuchadnezzar II. There's other kings before him, and they were very powerful and very strong, right? So anyways, it says here, succeeding its founder, his father, Nabopolassar, he is best known from the biblical books of Daniel and Jeremiah, where he is portrayed as the king who stands against the Most High. And that's true, right? He was a very wicked king. He was very cruel. And he was all into idolatry, man. He set up that golden image. And he worshipped other powers, like the god Murdoch, that deity. He also worshipped that as well. So he was heavy into idolatry. So anyways, here it says Nabopolassar had defeated the Assyrians with the help of the Medes, and liberated Babylonia from Assyrian rule. He then continued his conquest of the region, and so provided for his son a stable base and ample wealth on which to build an opportunity for greatness, which Nebuchadnezzar took full advantage of in the same way that Alexander the Great would later capitalize on the treasury and standing army left him by his father Philip II of Macedon. So yeah, man, he was wealthy too. He inherited money. He came from wealth. He was rich, so he wasn't a bum off the street, right? And usually when you come from money, especially back then, you're gonna get a very good education, and you're gonna go into the books. You're gonna become scholarly, and you're also gonna go into to magic as well, black magic. I'm sure he was doing that, because if he was into idolatry, it means he knew black magic. He was doing that, right? So he was spiritual on the left hand side, right? And you're gonna see that when it plays out, because I'm gonna go into the cruelty that shows you that. Okay, so anyways, here it says here, let's move down. Oh, actually, let's read a little bit more. Nebuchadnezzar married Amidus of Media, and so secured an alliance between the Medes and the Babylonians, and according to some sources, had the Hanging Gardens of Babylon built for her to remind her of her homeland in Persia. So yeah, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, that was him boasting of how he beautified his city, right? He made his city very beautiful with the hanging of flowers, and he decorated it. And not a lot of kingdoms back then did that. And that showed that he actually had a lot of wealth. For you to do something like this, especially back then, showed you had a lot of wealth and you had a lot of power. So Babylon was a very powerful city, and those hanging gardens, it showed that. Just like, a lot of wealthy nations, what do? They build skyscrapers today. That's what Esau does. When you see a city that has a lot of skyscrapers, that means they have a lot of wealth. They have a lot of money, right? And they have all these attractions. That means they have a lot of money, right? So that's what they show. That's the equivalent of this, right? This is like their skyscrapers. This is like the skyscrapers of their time. I'm just using that for an example. So anyways, it says here, upon ascending to the throne, Nebuchadnezzar spoke to the gods in his inaugural address. All right, so let's go down here. Early life and rise to power. Nebuchadnezzar II was born in 634 BCE in the region of Chaldea and the southeast of Babylonia. His name is actually Nabu-Kudurr-Usur. Nabu preserved my firstborn son. In Chaldean, while Nebuchadnezzar is the name by which the Israelites of Canaan knew him. From the Akkadian Nebuchadnezzar, He was the eldest son of the Babylonian general in the Assyrian army, Nabu-apul-usur. Nabu, protect my son, better known as Nabopolassar. At this time, the Assyrian Empire still controlled the region, what was in its final days. The empire had grown too large to maintain and began to weaken toward the end of the the end of the reign of the last great Assyrian king, Ashur-banipal. In 627 BCE, the Assyrians sent two of their representatives to take charge of Babylon, but Nabopolassar refused to support them, sent them back home, and was crowned king in 626 BCE. And this is his father. So he became a king. So it says here, for the next 10 years, Nabopolassar fought the Assyrians while Nebuchadnezzar grew up, receiving an education in military matters, as well as general literacy and government administration. So yeah, he was a smart guy. And he got a very good education, and he understood war. Okay, he understood war. So I'm sure he was a strategist. He knew how to plan battles, right? So he learned all of that, and government administration. That's why he was a king. He was involved with government, right? Controlling and setting up a kingdom. So he knew how to do that. So he wasn't no bum. He was actually very intelligent. All right, he was intelligent. He wasn't stupid. In 615 BCE, Nabopolassar attacked the city of Ashur, but was unable to take it until the Medes, under their king Xerxes, joined the resistance, and Ashur fell. And Ashur is an Assyrian city. It was a very strong city, and it was known for its trade routes. It was a place of trade. So that place itself, because it's a place of trade and everybody's got to go through them to trade when it came to livestock, animals, resources, and things of that nature, they were very powerful. So I can see that this was a strategic place to attack first, because if you attack this, then you get to heap and take those resources, and then you get to control the trade routes, right? So Ashur was like a trade city. It was a powerful city. So anyways, it says here, Nabopolassar then entered into an alliance with Xerxes and confirmed it with the marriage of Nebuchadnezzar to Xerxes' daughter. Now it says here, in 612 BC, the city of Nineveh fell to the Babylonian Mede coalition, and this date is recognized as the end of the Assyrian Empire. So pretty much when Nineveh fell, that was pretty much the end of the Assyrian Empire. And that's when you go into Daniel, the 7th chapter, because he was the one that conquered the Assyrian Empire. It was really through him. All right, it was through him. And he had help, right? But it was really through him. He got the credit for it. Now let's go into Daniel chapter 7. This is Daniel chapter 7. And we're going to start at verse 2. Daniel spake, and I said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. That's right. You know, those beasts, what are those beasts, right? Those beasts are the four major empires. Okay. And it says here, verse 4, the first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Yeah. Okay. So what is this talking about? The wings were plucked by who? The Babylonian Empire. So that first beast is the Assyrian Empire, and a lion with wings. What do you call that? You call that a griffin, right? So this is a griffin, but that represents the Assyrian Empire, and the Babylonians, starting with Nebuchadnezzar II, he plucked those wings off, which means he took them over, he took them down. And when he did that, Nebuchadnezzar became the top king on the earth, right? So yeah, this is talking about him taking down the Assyrian Empire, and that's what we just read. Okay, so I'll read it one more time. In 612 BCE, the city of Nineveh fell to the Babylonian Mede coalition, and this date is recognized as the end of the Assyrian Empire. All right, so there you go, and I'm going to stop there. Now, what do I want to do? Let's go into the cruelty of Nebuchadnezzar, right? So it says Nebuchadnezzar's cruelty, and I found this at jewishencyclopedia.com, and I'll post a link in the description during post-production for anybody that wants to take a look at this for themselves. All right, so we already got the background in him, Nabopolassar, he's the son of Nabopolassar, right? So anyways, let's go to the point. Let's go to Nebuchadnezzar's cruelty. Now, I said earlier that he was spiritual on the left-hand side, and he understood spirits, and he definitely understood the father of spirits. He understands how powerful the father of spirits is, and it shows by the way he treated us while he took us down. All right, so this is going to show that. So anyways, it says here, Nebuchadnezzar was most merciless toward the conquered people. By his command, the exiles on their way to Babylon were not allowed to stop even for a moment, as the king feared that they would pray during the respite granted them, and that God, or Yahweh Bashem Yeshai, would be willing to help them as soon as they repented. So that's why he didn't make us stop. He gave us no rest when he walked us back to Babylon in chains and shackles. It's so that he would make us very tired, so we can't worship Yahweh Bashem Yeshai and repent and pray, right? So this guy knew the power of Yahweh Bashem Yeshai, and he was spiritual. Okay, he understood spirits, especially the spirit Yahweh Bashem Yeshai. So with that being said, this brings to memory Judith the 5th chapter, right? So let's go into that, because that's the account of the Ammonites. The Ammonites, they gave the account of how if you go up against Israel when they're in good standing with their power, you're going to get humiliated. But if they're not in good standing with their power, you can take them down. And this is just an example of that. This is the reason why we were led into captivity by Nebuchadnezzar, because we were not in good standing with our power. So anyways, this is Judith chapter 5, verse 17. Well, actually, I'm going to start at verse 15. And it says here, so they dwelt in the land of the Amorites, and they destroyed by their strength all of them of Esbon, and passing over Jordan, they possessed all the hill country. Yeah, that's right, lived in nice places, nice hills, Baldwin Hills, all the hills, nice places, nice land. Verse 16, and they cast forth before them the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Jebusite, and the Shemite, and all the Girgasites, them Hamites, man, dirty Africans. And they dwelt in that country many days. That's right. And whilst they sinned not before their power, they prospered, because the Most High that hateth iniquity was with them. That's right, iniquity. Iniquity is you being in the condition without having the law, right? So if the law, if we practiced the law, the Lord was with us, right? If we practiced the law and we kept the laws, the Lord was with us, and that means we weren't in iniquity. So anyways, it says here, verse 18, and when they departed from the way which he appointed them, they were destroyed in many battles, very sore, and were led captives into a land that was not theirs, and the temple of their power was cast to the ground, and their cities were taken by the enemies. And that's exactly what happened to us during the time of the Babylonians, during the time of Nebuchadnezzar II's rule. He came, he attacked Judah, and then he attacked Jerusalem, and guess what? He attacked the temple. And then brought us into captivity, man. So he did that, and that's because we weren't in good standing. Now it says here, verse 19, but now are they returned to their power, and are come up from the places where they were scattered, and have possessed Jerusalem, where their sanctuary is, and are seated in the hill country, for it was desolate. So, okay, verse 20, now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error against this people, and they sin against their power, let us consider that this shall be their ruin, and let us go up, and we shall overcome them. But if there be no iniquity in their nation, let my Lord now pass by, lest their Lord defend them, and their power be for them, and when we become a reproach before all the world. So yeah, and that's why these nations, they want us to sin all the time, so we're not in good standing with our power, so they can take advantage of us and exploit us. And that's exactly what's happening today. Hey man, if all you Israelites turn and face towards the east and pray to Yahweh Bashem El Shai in one consent, which will never happen, the Lord would come back instantaneously. And he would take these devils down. And that's why he didn't want you guys to pray. That's talking about Nebuchadnezzar II. That's why he didn't want you to pray. That's why he tired you out. He made you walk far in shackles and chains and gave you no rest until you got to Babylon, man, because he didn't want you to worship the Lord and repent so he could take you down. Okay, so that's an example. All right, so let's go into the account of let's go into the account of let's continue on the cruelty. So it says here, Nebuchadnezzar did not feel safe until the exiles reached the Euphrates, the boundary line of Babylon. Then he made a great feast on board his ship, while the prince of Judah lay chained and naked by the river. That's judgment, man. Okay, so they chained him up and laid him naked. That's embarrassing. And he had a great feast. So he celebrated with a great feast when he took you Israelites down, man. Ate some nice pig, probably a nice roast pig, which I don't eat pig, but you know what I'm saying. To them, it's nice. You know, you had roast pig with an apple in his mouth, eating that wine, had his nice concubines and shit, and talking shit with his boys, man, his generals. You see that guy's face that I chopped his hands off. Ah ha ha ha. And the pork coming out of his mouth, drinking. Ah ha ha ha. Then he goes and sleep with his concubines, you know, because he has a harem of them. That's how they were back then, man. Some of them. So it says, in order to increase their misery, he had rolls of the Torah torn and made into sacks, which filled with sand, and he gave to the captive princes to carry. Mean, man. That's wicked. On this occasion, Nebuchadnezzar ordered the singers of the temple to add their music to his feast, but they preferred to bite off their fingers or even to be killed rather than to play their sacred music in honor of the Babylonian idols. Wow. Right? And that goes back to Psalms 137, man. I believe it goes, for they that carried us away captive required of us a song. This is an example of that, man. But hey, they bit their fingers off so they couldn't even play. That's serious, man. Matter of fact, let me pull that up. What is it? Psalms 137 and 3. That is serious. So this is Psalms 137 and 3. It says here, for there they that carried us away captive required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. Yeah, sing us one of the songs of Zion, so you can worship our deities, our pagan gods, man. Right? So, you know, this was a very barbaric and inhumane thing to do, even to an enemy that's miserable, man. Right? And it showed that this guy, man, he didn't even pity us, man. And he didn't care. He just trampled upon us. He did not care. And he had a very base and disgusting spirit to enjoy our distress, man. Wow. You know, he challenged us to be married even when we were out of tune for that shit. When we didn't want to sing and dance, when we were at our lowest, he still wanted us to get up and sing and dance. And that's our people to this very day, man. Right? That's us. Yeah, that even happened in slavery, man. Especially with Judah. Man, go watch the movie Roots. And there was a character in Roots named Fiddler. Hey, man, after Fiddler worked them fields, because he wasn't a house nigga, he was a field nigga that knew how to play the violin. He was very good at it, right? So after working from sun up to sundown, then he would go to bed, but then they'll wake him up out of his sleep and he would have to go play his violin for the damn massa, man. So, hey, this scripture, or precept, I mean, fits us to a T. It fits us Israelites. In every captivity that we've been in, this always happened to us, man. And we're reading it, right? We're reading it. So, hey, this guy was cruel. He was heartless. So he heartlessly drove the captives before him entirely without clothing until the inhabitants of Bari induced him to clothe them. Right? So yeah, man. He made us walk naked. He made our women show their private parts. He made our men show their private parts, even young children. And that's to put us to an open shame. And that's a part of the curses, right? So Jeremiah chapter 4 and 7 is not talking about Yahushua. It's talking about Nebuchadnezzar, on how he was a serious ruler, on how he was like a lion, because a lion has the force and the power to crush their enemies. Not saying Yahushua doesn't have that capability, but if you go into the context of Jeremiah 4 and 7, it's not talking about Yahushua. It's actually talking about Nebuchadnezzar II. Okay? So, if you're still out there saying that that's talking about Yahushua, you're wrong, and you need to make that correction, right? All right, so we're going to go into 2 Chronicles chapter 36, and this goes along with the cruelty that we experienced, especially Judah, Jerusalem. This is what we experienced under Nebuchadnezzar. So this is the cruelty in the scriptures. So this is excuse me, 2 Chronicles chapter 36. We're going to start at verse 6. It says here, actually verse 5, Joachim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh his power. Against him came up Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and bound him in fetters to carry him to Babylon. Yeah, so he got carried away. Yeah, he got put into captivity, and everything that you read about happened to him too, and it happened to his sons. He had to walk naked. He had to be chained up, walk naked, be mocked and disrespected, and that's because he went against the Heavenly Father. Verse 7, Nebuchadnezzar also carried of the vessels of the house of the Lord to Babylon. So he went to the temple, took all the goodly things, right? Took all the resources, took all the gold, silver, money, whatever you can think, anything that was valuable. All right. Lord to Babylon, and put them in his temple at Babylon. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and his abominations which he did, and that which was found in him, behold, they are written in the books of the kings of Yashala and Judah. And Jehoiachin, his son, reigned in his stead. Jehoiachin was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh. So he was a wicked nigga. And, the kings, when they started to be wicked, and that's when the nation fell. And I'm going to say this, man, fuck kings, man. A lot of you fucking kings, man, always fuck shit up, man. Sometimes it makes me angry when I read this. It's always the fucking king, man. Always doing stupid shit, man. Not saying that you guys aren't important, but you guys are stupid, man. Right? But verse 10, it says, and when the year was expired, King Nebuchadnezzar sent and brought him to Babylon with the goodly vessels of the house of the Lord, and made Zedekiah his brother king over Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, his power, and humbled not himself before Jeremiah the prophet, speaking from the mouth of Yahweh. So yeah, they don't want to listen to the prophets either. A lot of the kings, a lot of the people back then didn't want to listen to prophets, just like today. They don't want to listen to prophets. They don't want to hear what they have to say, man. They don't want the prophet to come out and speak and break things down properly. And when he starts talking, they get fucking angry. Right? That includes men in the truth and people who are outside the truth, man. Try to quench the spirit because they don't got it, or they're upset, or they feel emotional. Right? That's how it is. And really, these kings, man, they were influenced the wrong way. Yes, they were wicked too. They were influenced bad. But they were emotional. They were emotional, man. Because that's all that is. Verse 13, and he also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made him swear by the Most High, but he stiffened his neck and hardened his heart from turning unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, power of Israel. Moreover, all the chief of the priests, and the people transgressed very much after all the abominations of the heathen, and polluted the house of the Lord Yahweh, which he had hallowed in Jerusalem. And Yahweh Bashemeshai their power, and Yahweh Bashemeshai power of their fathers sent to them by his messengers, rising up betimes and sending, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked the messengers of the Most High. That's right. And despised his words and misused his prophets until the wrath of Yahweh Shemeshai arose against his people, till there was no remedy. Wow. Therefore, he brought upon them the king of the Chaldees, who slew their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion upon young man or maiden, old man, or him that stooped for age. He gave them all into his hand, and all the vessels of the house of the Most High, great and small, and the treasures of the house of Yahweh, and the treasures of the king and of the princes, all these he brought to Babylon. Wow. And they burnt the houses of the Most High, and brake down the wall of Jerusalem, and burned all the places thereof with fire, and destroyed all the goodly vessels thereof. See that? Judgment. And that's a part of the cruelty, man. Burning people's homes down, taking their stuff, taking their loved ones, taking their wives, taking their daughters, making their sons servants. Hey, man, that happened to you. That happened to you. Okay? And they boasted about it. And we went into the history. All right, so I'm going to read until verse 21. And them that had escaped from the sword carried he away to Babylon, where they were servants to him and his sons until the reign of the kingdom of Persia. So you were a slave and a servant until the Persian Empire, until pretty much Babylon was taken down. And that's judgment. And hey, man, and we're in Babylon again, and we're servants, and we're subject to payments. You know, we're under a cruel lord, right? Because when you go into Isaiah 14, it talks about the king of Babylon. That's talking about the modern day king of America going into America, right? You know, starting with their presidents, but also it really goes behind that, you know, the elites, but they're cruel, right? So they are the exact same way, right? You're just a servant here. You're just a slave. You don't own anything, and you have no power. Verse 21, to fulfill the word of Yahweh by mouth of Jeremiah until the land had enjoyed her Sabbats, for as long as she lay desolate, she kept Shabbat, or Sabbath, to fulfill 70 years. Wow. So 70 years, pretty much. Yeah, man. So, with that, hope this was edifying. Until next time, I just want to give all praises, glory, and honor to unto Yahweh Bahashem Yoshai, Bahashem Rakah HaKodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone or Ruwell, that do teach well, that have taught me this truth. To you I say Shalom, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. Kwam Yashala and Baba Ball. Shalom.